Today we're getting into the psychology of money, pulling out some key ideas from Morgan Housel's fantastic book. We're exploring why our financial lives often seem to, well, defy logic.
Exactly. Our mission here is to figure out why we sometimes act so, let's say, irrationally with money,
Hmm.
and why understanding human psychology, not just the math, is really the key to making better decisions. You should expect some pretty surprising insights today, real aha moments that might just change how you look at wealth.
Yeah, and we've got this incredible contrast lined up, a story about a tech genius, super smart, who lost it all, and then compare that to a humble janitor who somehow became a multimillionaire. It perfectly sets up this core idea. Behavior just beats brains when it comes to money, every single time. So let's unpack this. What's the fundamental truth here? Why is behavior so much more important than, say, IQ?
Well, what's really striking is how real-life stories show this best. It's, like Housel says, doing well with money has, a little bit to do with how smart you are, but a lot to do with how you behave. And that's the tough part, right? Behavior is incredibly hard to teach, even to really, really smart people. You can be a certified genius, but if you can't manage your emotions or your ego around money...
Disaster.
Oh, definitely. That tech exec story is just wild. Regular guest at this fancy LA hotel, right?
Yeah.
Absolute genius, designed some key Wi-Fi part, patented it, sold companies, hugely successful. But his money habits, bizarre. Carrying these thick wads of cash, bragging loudly, often drunk, he'd apparently throw $1,000 gold coins into the Pacific.
Just for fun. It's just for fun.
Yeah.
And there was this incident with a lamp. Someone broke a lamp worth maybe $500 in the hotel restaurant. He gets angry, pulls out $5,000, throws it at the manager.
Wow.
Yeah, it's this crazy mix of insecurity and just sheer stupidity with money. And, well, you can guess the ending. Years later, totally broke.
It's such a powerful example that, brilliance doesn't equal financial sense, but the opposite story is just as amazing, maybe even more so.
Right. Let's talk about Ronald Read. His Wikipedia page literally starts, American philanthropist, investor, janitor, and gas station attendant.
Yeah, quite the mix.
Born in rural Vermont, first in his family to finish high school. Apparently he hitchhiked there every day. Super low-key life. Worked at a gas station for 25 years. Then swept floors at JCPenney for another 17. Bought a simple 2-bedroom house for $12,000 when he was 38. Lived there his whole life.
Just a regular guy.
Exactly. Then, 2014, he dies at 92. And this quiet, unassuming janitor makes international news. Why? Because out of the nearly 3 million Americans who died that year, fewer than 4,000 had a net worth over $8 million.
And he was one of them.
He was one of them. Left $2 million to his stepkids and over $6 million to the local hospital and library. People who knew him were just stunned. Like, how?
Yeah, no lottery win, right? No big inheritance.
Nope, nothing like that. He just saved what little he could, invested in solid blue chip stocks, big reliable companies. And then, and this is key, he just waited for decades. Let compounding do its thing.
That slow, steady power of compounding, just letting your money make more money over a long, long time.
That was it. From janitor to multi-millionaire philanthropist. Incredible.
And then you have the flip side. Just months before Ronald Read died, there was another guy in the news. Richard Fuscone. Now, Fuscone was everything Read wasn't. Harvard education, MBA, top executive at Merrill Lynch. So successful, he retired in his 40s to focus on philanthropy. His old CEO praised his business savvy, sound judgment, all that.
Sounds like the opposite end of the spectrum.
Totally. But then it all unraveled. In the mid-2000s, he borrowed tons of money to expand this massive 18,000 square foot mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut. Think 11 bathrooms, 2 elevators, 2 pools.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the upkeep alone was supposedly like $90,000 a month, funded by debt. Then, bam, 2008 financial crisis hits.
Ouch. High debt, illiquid assets.
Exactly. Bankruptcy. His homes, including that huge mansion, got foreclosed, eventually sold for way, way less than it was supposedly worth.
The contrast is just
Yeah,
stark. Read was patient. Fuscone was greedy. And that difference in behavior completely wiped out this huge gap in education, experience, connections, everything.
It really makes you wonder, like Housel asks, what other field exists where someone with zero formal training, no background, no connections, can massively outperform someone with the absolute best education and pedigree?
Yeah, you'd never see a janitor doing heart surgery better than a Harvard-trained surgeon.
Right.
It just wouldn't happen.
But in investing, these stories pop up. It tells you something fundamental about money.
So what does it tell us? How should we think about financial success then?
Well, connecting it all, it really shows that finance isn't like physics. It's not a hard science with fixed rules and laws where input A always gives you output B. It's much more of a soft skill.
Right.
It's closer to psychology. It's driven by our emotions, our biases, our behavior. We teach finance like it's math, like just knowing the formula is enough.
Right. Plug in the numbers, get the answer.
Exactly. But knowing what to do tells you absolutely nothing about what actually goes on in your head when you try to do it. That's the hard part.
Okay, so behavior is king.
Mm.
But what about the stuff people do with money that just looks completely crazy from the outside?
Ah, yeah. People do some wild things. But here's a core idea from the book. No one is crazy.
No one is crazy. How does that work?
Think about it like this. Your own personal experiences with money, maybe saving or debt or inflation, whatever. They're just a tiny, tiny sliver of all the financial experiences that had ever happened in the world. Like 0.000000001%.
Okay, a minuscule fraction.
Right. But that tiny fraction makes up something like 80% of how you think the world works financially. Your personal experience massively outweighs objective facts or other people's experiences in shaping your views.
Huh. So my tiny little window on the world feels like the whole picture to me.
Pretty much. And that's why people act so differently. This raises the question, why does that tiny slice lead to such different behaviors? Because everyone's slice is different. Different generations, different parents, different incomes, different countries, different luck. We all learn fundamentally different lessons about money.
So what seems totally nuts to me might make perfect sense to someone else based on their life lessons.
Exactly. Their choices are rational within their own framework, even if that framework looks flawed from the outside.
That actually explains a lot. Like someone growing up poor versus someone born rich. They're going to see risk completely differently. Or if you live through runaway inflation versus stable prices. Your view on saving versus spending or bonds versus stocks, it's shaped by that lived experience.
Absolutely. Or think about the Great Depression generation versus someone who came of age in the 90s tech boom.
Yeah.
Totally different views of the stock market.
Yeah, or even globally. Like Australia hasn't had a recession in like 30 years. Compare that to the U.S. experience. Or think about JFK's super wealthy family. He admitted he only read about the Depression at Harvard. He didn't feel it.
And there's actual data backing this up. These economists, Malmendier and Nagel, looked at decades of survey data. They found people's investment decisions throughout their lives were heavily, heavily influenced by the market conditions they experienced in their early adult years.
So if you saw high inflation when you were young, you're less likely to invest in bonds later in life.
Yep. Or if you saw stocks booming when you were, say, 18 to 25, you're more likely to favor stocks later on. It's not about smarts or education. It's about your personal history.
Wow, like Bill Gross, the big bond guy. He basically said his timing was everything. His career perfectly matched this huge fall in interest rates.
Right, which made bonds look like amazing wealth-generating machines to him. But his father's generation, they saw high inflation eroding bond values. To them, bonds might have seemed like wealth incinerators.
The book has these great charts showing it. Someone born in 1970 saw the S&P 500 nearly tenfold during their teens and 20s, even after inflation. But someone born in 1950, the market basically went nowhere for them during those same formative years. Huge difference in perspective.
Or inflation. Born in 1960, prices tripled when you were young and impressionable. Born in 1990, inflation's probably been so low it barely registers.
And it goes beyond just markets, right? Like socioeconomic factors play a huge role.
Oh, massively. Think about unemployment in, say, late 2009. The national average was bad, around 10%. But for young African-American men without a high school diploma, it was nearly 50%.
50%.
Meanwhile, for college-educated white women over 45, it was like 4%. Those are completely different realities leading to different views on risk, opportunity, saving, everything.
Or think post-World War II. Germany and Japan. Their economies and markets were devastated. The U.S. economy booming, stocks doubling.
Yeah.
You can't expect people from those different backgrounds to think about money the same way.
Their worlds were fundamentally different.
There's that really powerful, maybe slightly uncomfortable anecdote in the book about the Foxconn factories in China.
Right, the sweatshop perspective.
Yeah.
Yep.
Westerners often see it as exploitation.
Yeah.
Long hours, low pay,
Hmm?
which, has truth to it. But then there was this comment from a nephew of a woman who worked there. He said, yeah, his aunt worked in what Americans call a sweatshop. But before that, she was a prostitute. For her, the factory job was a step up, a huge improvement in her option.
It's a stark reminder that different contexts, different opportunities lead to vastly different but internally logical viewpoints. What looks crazy or wrong to us might be the best available option for someone else.
So it really boils down to every financial choice makes sense to the person making it at that moment.
Exactly. It's based on their mental model, shaped by their unique history. They might be wrong, misinformed, bad at math, whatever, but in their head, the story they're telling themselves makes sense.
Which brings us to something like lottery tickets. It's a classic example.
Oh, yeah. Americans spend an insane amount on them. More than movies, video games, music, sports, and books combined.
And it's mostly lower income households buying them,
Right.
spending like $400 a year on average.
Right. And here's the kicker, Housel points out. Something like 40% of Americans say they couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense.
So the same people spending $400 on lottery tickets often can't afford a $400 emergency. From the outside, that looks completely irrational.
It does. But try looking at it from their perspective. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, saving feels impossible. Your job prospects aren't great. You don't see a path to the nice house, the secure retirement, the stuff others take for granted. Buying that lottery ticket might be the only tangible way they feel they can grasp at that dream, even for a fleeting moment. It's less an investment, more a payment for hope.
So it's a rational purchase for a dream, even if it's statistically irrational as an investment.
That's one way to understand why it persists. It serves a different purpose.
Okay, so our personal histories shape our views dramatically. But there's another piece to this puzzle, right? The financial system itself.
Yes, this is crucial. Another big reason we often struggle with money is that the whole system we're operating in is incredibly new.
New, like finance feels ancient. Money's been around forever.
Money, yes, but the concepts we grapple with today, especially things like saving and investing for retirement, they're practically babies in human history.
Really? Like retirement?
Think about it. Before World War II, most Americans just worked until they died. That was normal. The whole idea of being entitled to retire comfortably, that's maybe 2 generations old, tops.
Huh. I never really thought about it that way.
Social Security started small. Initial benefits in 1940 were tiny, like $22 a month. It wasn't until the 1980s that the average check crossed $1,000 a month in today's money. And well into the late 1960s, over a quarter of seniors lived in poverty.
Wow. And the tools we use now for retirement saving, 401ks, IRAs.
Exactly. The 401k literally didn't exist until 1978. The Roth IRA came along in 1998.
1998.
Fun
That's,
fact.
yeah, barely old enough to drink, like Housel says.
Right. So our main retirement savings vehicles are basically still teenagers or college kids, developmentally speaking.
So it's no wonder we're often bad at it. We're all basically figuring this out as we go along.
Precisely. We're not crazy. We're just newbies. We haven't had generations to build up wisdom and intuition about these specific systems.
And that applies elsewhere too, right? Not just retirement.
Oh, absolutely. Look at college. The massive boom in attendance happened relatively recently, post-WWII mostly, and tuition costs exploded, especially in the last few decades.
So the whole student loan crisis,
Yeah.
it's partly because it's a relatively new phenomenon at this scale. We don't have generations of experience navigating it.
That's a big part of it. We haven't collectively learned the best ways to handle that level of debt for education yet. Same goes for things like index funds less than 50 years old. Hedge funds really took off in the last 25 years.
Even widespread consumer debt, credit cards, mortgages for the masses, car loans that really exploded after WWII.
Yeah, the GI Bill helped millions get mortgages, which was great, but it also normalized widespread borrowing in a way that hadn't existed before. So Housel uses this great analogy. Dogs were domesticated maybe 10,000 years ago, right? And they still have instincts from their wild ancestors.
Okay.
So if dogs haven't fully adapted after 10,000 years, how can we expect humans to be perfectly rational and adapted to a financial system that's maybe only 20, 30, 50 years old in its current form?
That's a really good point. We're running ancient software on brand new hardware, essentially.
That's a great way to put it. There's a fundamental mismatch.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. The big takeaways seem to be our money decisions are way more about our personal histories, our unique experiences, than just cold, hard logic.
Definitely. Our individual backgrounds shape our financial lens.
And on top of that, the very systems we're trying to navigate retirement, student loans, investing time, they're incredibly young. We're all still learning.
Which explains why behavior often seems crazy from the outside but makes sense from the inside based on that person's history and the newness of the game.
Understanding this really does breed empathy, doesn't it? You start to see why others make the choices they do, even if you wouldn't make them yourself.
Exactly. Everyone's got their own psychology of money, shaped by their own unique life journey. Recognizing that can help you be less judgmental and maybe even make better decisions for yourself. Understanding your own biases better.
Which leads to a final thought for you, the listener. Given how much your own personal history shapes your financial behavior, what hidden biases might you be carrying around when it comes to money? And how could understanding those biases maybe lead to better outcomes for your own financial future?